like a middle of the pack ultimate here is something like Sojourn's Railgun. What's up, guys? It's me, Coach Mills, and today we're going to be breaking down the character ultimate tier list where we rank all ultimates from best to worst and give you some tips on how to use them better. But if you enjoy this type of content, smash that like and subscribe, and if you want private coaching, links will be in the description down below, and let's get right into it. Now, jumping right in the list, we need to talk about some ultimates that are on the opposite ends of the spectrum as far as the most broken and the weakest, because that helps us fill in the middle area when you kind of identify what are the pinnacles of ultimates and where things can go from there. So let's talk about a couple pinnacles, and then we'll talk about a couple terribles. So a pinnacle ultimate is like Lucio's Beat. This is a pinnacle ultimate. And it does so many things that lead to a one team fight. It protects your entire team from across like a huge amount of area, gives them a huge amount of protection. At the same time, you can still contribute to the fight when you're beated. And it's just insane. It's really, really phenomenal. It has a huge percentage of winning team fights. You could use it aggressively. You could use it defensively. It's just great all the time. So yeah, Lucio Beat is really strong. He can get killed mid-beat. That's like the only fear, getting Ajaxed, which for whatever reason has been happening more, I feel like, in Overwatch 2 than 1. But as long as you make sure that you're doing it safe, you're making sure that nothing can kill you mid-beat, you're going to be winning a lot of fights with this ultimate. Now, let's talk about another S-tier ultimate, and that would be Graviton Surge. Graviton Surge is an S-tier ultimate. Now, yes, ultimates like Trance and ultimates like Beat can stop a Graviton, but if you think about how Graviton combos really well with ultimates, it oftentimes can be used to win a team fight just outright. If you're grabbing an enemy team that doesn't have a defensive ultimate, you can just focus that and kill it. Even if enemies do have defensive ultimates, oftentimes you could use a grab in a way to grab one or two people, get instant value, or set it up in a situation where maybe you grab them, they have beat, but a Dragon Strike plus damage still kills somebody. Or they have Trance and you have a nade for that. There's a lot of situations where you could set it up to where Grav is just going to win fights. And it's so strong having a CC that locks everyone into one place. If you hit it right, really, really great. Fantastic. S-tier ultimate for sure. For sure. Now, let's go to some of the weaker ultimates in the game. I know I have L, like let's think of ultimates that are at the lowest end, like the bottom of the barrel. And there are some ultimates that you could make an argument for them being L or C. I'm probably gonna move some of these around, but like an ultimate that is fairly weak, let's go to Widow. Widow, I think, is fairly weak. Sights is fairly weak. Now, the information is strong, don't get me wrong, but oftentimes it's the Widow themselves that benefits the most from it. But I'm sure that you've seen it in your games where your Widow pops walls and doesn't get any kills, and also sometimes just dies. Gets killed, gets smoked by an enemy Widow, even when they have walls, or they get dove, they can't do anything. Now, I'm not saying the information is bad. Information is fantastic. All ultimates are good. I want to make that clear. Nearly every single ultimate is better than an ability. But for Widow's Sights, it's not guaranteed. Like, think of the guaranteed value of these up here. And then think about the big question mark of this one. It could be amazing. It could be great. But it's not necessarily always great. So that's why it's a C ultimate. And you could also make an argument for L. I'm gonna put an L for now. I'll probably move it up a little bit. We're gonna figure it out as we move along this list. Okay, next up, an ultimate that is not that great. We have Bashed's ultimate. We're gonna put him a little bit higher. I'm gonna put them both at the bottom, and we can move them up as the list kind of expands. Bashed's ultimate is just not that good against enemies that actually do play around it. Like, sure, if you start your ultimate and there's someone that is completely oblivious to you, standing still, and they have no movement ability, then you could use your entire ultimate to kill one person. But if you don't invest that much into one person, you're probably not getting one kill. And there's a good percentage of the time where you're not going to kill anyone. If their team has any movement, if their team has speed boost, not only that, but Bashed is vulnerable to a dive. There's a lot of weakness here, and all in all, Bashed's ultimate is just not that great. It can be used to like combo with another powerful ultimate like Grav, but if we think about, you know, an ultimate that has, I would say, more potential, strictly better, that does something similar like Junkrat Tire, that has a higher carry potential than Bash's ultimate, you could just kind of see that Bash's ultimate is not great, because Junkrat's ultimate is definitely not like an S tier ultimate either. So when we look at that, it like Bastion has to be pretty low. Now, let's kind of move on to some of these ultimates that are a little bit more situational. Let's think about some more situational ultimates. And the one that kind of, you know, you think about a lot is like this Orisa ultimate, right? Orisa's ultimate is hard to gauge because oftentimes it doesn't get that much value. And I would say that overall, it's a pretty weak ultimate, but I also think that a lot of people use it incorrectly. You really want to use it as a momentum carrier in a fight. You don't necessarily want to use it as an initiator, because you don't want enemies to just be able to like run out of it or even eat some of it. You want it to be something that kind of overwhelms them. But still, even in spite of that, I think it's pretty like rather weak as far as CC is concerned. Like compare this ultimate, this CC ultimate of Orisa directly to Rhine Shatter, Sigma's ultimate, Zarya's Graviton Surge, and you see that it's just a lot weaker than those. So I would say that it's down in the C tier. Does have potential, but not nearly as powerful as some of the other ones. Okay, now this is an interesting one. Junker Queen. So I think that Junker Queen gets a bad rap because she's a very weak character right now. She definitely needs buffs, but her ultimate is insanely strong. I mean, think about what it does. It antis a ton of people and bleeds them and does damage to them. That's insane. Now, there is a little ability in the game called Suzu that just clears it out, right? But that's only assuming that they have a Kiriko, and in a non-Kiriko meta, Junker Queen's ultimate is really strong. Like in a vacuum, Junker Queen's ultimate is insane. And I think it actually is one of the most powerful ultimates in the game. I'm actually putting it in the A tier because, like, if we look at an ability like on a nade, we could say that ability is so strong. But then we look at that ability in the meta and we say, oh, it just gets cleansed. Sure, that's true, but you can't say that the ability isn't powerful in like, you know, in isolation, and there could easily become a meta where Junker Queen's ultimate is just game breaking, like super powerful, being able to anti an entire team of people. That's insane, and you could win so many fights that way, especially when like tanks don't die, people don't die. I just think it's really great. I think that it's a very strong ultimate, and I'll put it up in the A tier. Okay, now we're gonna jump into the next ultimate, and we have Reinhardt. Now, Reinhardt CC, I think, is insane. It's one of the best, like, fight enders. It can win fights by itself. It's definitely a skill ability. Like, you have to often time it right up against other shields, make sure you don't get CC'd, make sure that the enemies are in the right, like, line of sight, and they're often playing around it. There's a lot of, like, really finicky things you have to do to try to get that value with the shatter. Sometimes you're like not shattering the person in front of you, but you're trying to shatter to an off angle, get the people down. There's a lot of different things you could do, but as far as pure power level is concerned, I'm putting Reinhardt's ultimate in the S tier. I think that it can just straight up win fights alone. You don't need combo, you don't need anything else with it. You just need a Rhine and a Dream, and you get shit done with the shatter. I think it's really strong. I think Reinhardt's ultimate is insane. Okay, now let's actually kind of shift gears a bit and go to some more middle of the pack ultimates. I think like a middle of the pack ultimate here is something like Sojourn's Railgun, her ultimate. Now, yes, it can let you rail through multiple people. Yes, you get a lot of shots off, but it does require skill to pull off. But like the value that you get off of this on average is going to be a lot higher than like the value you get off of like a Widow ultimate, right? Because Widow just gives you sights, you have to follow up. But Rail, like, you don't have to hit crazy shots. You can just keep hitting body shots. You could still get value. You could just, you know, rail someone in the body with your normal rail and then just activate your ultimate, and then you get a ton of tries. And it just plays into the rest of your kit. Can it be insane? Like, can you kill a ton of people with it? Sure. But are you always? No. But the floor is pretty high. So I'm going to say that Sojourn Ultimate is like a perfect middle of the pack. You could make an argument that it's lower, like it's C, because there's not as much guaranteed value as some of these other ultimates. Like, I could see the argument that it actually being here. But the potential on it is really high in the right hands. And I think it scales really well as you get to the higher ranks. So I'm putting it in the B tier. Okay. Next up, we got to talk about Ana, Nano. Now, Nano's interesting because I actually think Nano is you would think it might be like a middle of the pack ultimate, but I think Nano is really great because it combos with a lot of characters. You put it on a Pharah, you put it on a Genji, you put it on a Rhine, you put it on anything, and they just become cracked. They build up ultimate faster, so you have a high charge Zarya that just grabbed your Nano Hertz, she builds up an ultimate faster, so it kind of it cycles. And Nano can be used in a ton of different ways. It can be used on a DPS to combo. It could be used on a tank to, you know, just make them much stronger on the front line. It could be used on a support to keep them alive. There's a lot of variations that you could do with it, and that flexibility, I think, is something that can't be understated. So I'm putting it in the A tier. Now, we're going on to Bob, and Bob I'm putting into the B tier. Bob is insane. A lot of people use Bob wrong, but Bob's insane. Bob needs to be used to create space and create a crossfire. So, like, if your team, let's actually whip out the epic pen for coaching here. This is the epic pen I use for coaching. We'll see. Boom. Okay. So, like, if your team is here and you're here, and the enemy team is here, oftentimes people will throw a Bob here. They'll be like, ooh, look, a Bob. And the Bob will shoot this way and you'll shoot this way. That's not what I'm talking about. No. The idea is to create space and put the enemy team in between Bob and you. So what do? Your team's right here. The enemy team's right here. You throw Bob and it lands over here. And you're here. So you're shooting this way. Bob's shooting this way. The enemy team's trapped in the middle. You claimed a ton of space with Bob. And now the enemy is put in between a rock and a hard place, aka your fire and the enemy fire. If they want to retreat to Bob, they have to take fire all the way to him while they take fire from you, and you're safer, so you can be more aggressive. If they want to push you and ignore Bob, Bob is putting extra damage into them, meaning that you have a higher chance of winning the fight. So, like, that is what is really good about Bob. Most people use Bob wrong. Most of the time, Bob gets slept, he gets thrown into a corner, and he doesn't do anything. I know that that's true, but if Bob is used properly, I think Bob is like a top tier, B tier, maybe even the bottom of A tier ultimate. Really, really strong. Next up, we have Amplification. Amplification is one of those ultimates that I think is pretty good. Sometimes it gets value, sometimes it doesn't. It kind of depends on how your team plays around it. I think that even at its worst, you're using it for yourself to amplify your damage and amplify your heals, so that's good. And I would say that at its best, it can win an entire team fight. So I'm going to put it, you know, in like the B tier. I think it could be high B, maybe even low A. There's a lot of really powerful ultimates here, though, so I don't want to put too many things too high up too soon because, yeah, there's some cracked ultimates. Okay, Brig Rally. This is an interesting one because I think this is the weakest of the defensive ultimates. I don't even really want to call it a defensive ultimate because it doesn't really protect you. Like, it protects you from normal fire, but it doesn't protect you from ultimates. And that's the problem with Rally. Like, you can rally and go into a team, but, like, if you get grabbed, you're still gonna die, right? If you get shattered, you're still gonna die. But, like, your team can't be shattered on the floor and you rally and hope that saves them. That's not realistic. Like you can with Trance, like you can with Beat. And I would say that Rally is weaker than those. I don't think it's a weak ultimate by any means, but I don't think it's a particularly strong ultimate compared to a lot of the other defensive ultimates in the game, or even like some that you use more aggressively. High Noon. High freaking Noon, okay? This ultimate kind of blows. Okay. Now, you might disagree with me here if you've, you know, popped it and you got like a whole bunch of kills here. But the reality of High Noon is you can get slept, you can get hooked, you can get killed. Now, the thing about High Noon that's cool, though, is if you, like, you know, play on a flank, get tricky with your use of it, if you shield yourself off, ask for a DM. Hell, you could even use it to reload and just cancel it if you want to. But it is an ultimate that has a high ceiling. It has a very low floor, but the ceiling is insane. So, like, that's why I'm not putting it in the bottom tier, because the ceiling is, like, game fight winning, but the floor is literally you feed and die. So it is a pretty low floor, but it does have a high potential ceiling. But oftentimes you have to get really creative with how you're using it. Like, it's not an ultimate that is going to give you kills for free. It's an ultimate that the enemy needs to really, really mess up, or you need to be really, really crafty with how you're using it. Okay, Echo's ultimate. Echo's ultimate's great. Echo Ultimate's very powerful. Now, it used to be busted. It used to, like, not give you the full health of the character always, even tanks. And when she popped out of it, she would pop out at full health. It was just completely absurd. Now it's a little bit more reasonable, but still so strong. Copy characters that can get immediate value. Most of the time, it's going to be the tank, but sometimes it could be a support. Sometimes it could be a DPS. If the value is instantaneous, don't copy for your ultimate. Copy for your abilities and the value you'll get the moment that you turn into that copy, and you're going to win a lot of team fights with it. And the flexibility, the power level, I'm putting it at the top of A tier. So damn strong. And it's one of the best reasons to play Echo. I think Echo is super underrated right now. Super strong, great at carrying games. You play aggressive angles, you poke aggressively, you have a get out, you build up that ultimate, and you win a fight with it. Rinse and repeat. Great stuff. Next up, we got to talk about Genji's Blade. Now, I think there's like a split in the community, right? A lot of people are like, Genji's Blade's so strong, and some people are like, Genji Blade's trash. There's like all this argument online. And I think people just don't realize, or it's hard to not compare Genji to his former self, right? It's hard to not to compare Genji to the places he has been, the peaks he's seen, because he's seen peaks so damn high in a world with no immortality field, no Suzu, and he just gets to do whatever he wants, right? That's not the way it is anymore. Genji can get shut down, but at the end of the day, though, a Genji Blade that is done well, that is properly playing around the things that can shut him down, is an ultimate that isn't realistically hard to build, and an ultimate that can carry a fight, like straight up carry a fight. And I think that it's actually at the bottom of A tier. You could make an argument that it's at the top of B or whatever, but I think that Genji's, as a DPS ultimate, it is so strong. Yes, it can get shut down. Yes, it has a low floor, but the ceiling is very high, and I think even the average Blade getting 1 to 2 kills, if you are good and you play around all those things, I think that's great. And of course, it's an ultimate that is better. Like, the lower rank you are, the less people shut you down and focus you. So yeah, I'm putting it at the bottom of A tier. Sue me, okay? Sue me. Now, next up is Hanzo's Dragon Strike. I'm gonna put Hanzo's Dragon Strike in the B tier. I'm actually gonna put it like right around there. I think it's an ultimate that's strong. It can be used to combo. It can be used to kill a solo target. It can be used to create space on card if you have to contest. There's a lot of great things about it, and the fact that you could use it from pure safety means that that's like you're not going to die while using it. And it's also really easy to build. It's not like a ultimate that is going to just outright win you the game or win you the fight unless it's perfectly used. But I think that the value it brings over the course of a game is a lot, and I will put it at the bottom of B tier. Maybe it's like here. Next up, we got to talk about Junkrat's Riptire. Now, this is an interesting one because it's another one of those super high ceiling, super, you know, low potential. I would say that it's probably at the bottom of B tier. I think that especially up against some comps and some players, Tire is really easy to shut down. But a Junkrat can be equally as tricky with his Tire. I think that you often see like these 4 or 5, you know, I say 6 man, but 5-man tires, huge tires. They're definitely possible, but it's also possible to use like 3 tires in like 6 fights and get 0 kills with it. So a little bit of a fear here. I mean, the same thing is true for Genji's ultimate. I'm not gonna lie to you, but Junkrat is, you know, a little bit easier to shut down than a Genji's ultimate. I mean, you just have to shoot a tire. And like I said, against some compositions, whether they're really spread out, have a lot of mobility, have a lot of hit scans, characters that can shoot the tire, you're not guaranteed value with it. So yeah. Next up, Mei's ultimate. And it's weird because this ultimate used to be so damn menacing. Like, it used to be incredible, and now it kind of feels a bit mid, right? A bit mid. It's not anything that is gonna just completely change a fight, because teams are way more spread out than they used to be. Back in Overwatch 1, teams, not only do you have 2 tanks, but teams would play really close together. So Mei's could mess with both of the tanks, and the freeze oftentimes would hit more people. Now, not as much. So I think it's a lot weaker than it used to be. Still strong, though. I'm actually going to put it, let's actually put it like here. I'm going to say it's at like towards the top of B tier. I think it's still pretty strong. Actually, let's rearrange this shit a little bit. Let's put Junkrat's ultimate like up here. Let's put it like right here. Yeah. This looks about right. This looks about right. Something like this. But yeah, I think that Mei's ultimate is just not as strong as it used to be. Diva Bomb. Diva. I'm actually tempted to put it in the S tier because it's super strong. I mean, it's very versatile. You can get kills with it. You can remech with it. It keeps her alive. I think I'm going to put it at the very top of A tier, though. It's a really great ultimate. Don't get me wrong. I think that the fact that you can use it to just, you know, get that second life, or the fact that you can sometimes use it to get these crazy plays and bombs and like get people off the cart. There's a lot of potential with this ultimate, and I think that even its floor is high. Like, its floor is really high, unlike some of these other ultimates that we talked about, Junkrat Tire, Genji Blade, where the floor is to the, you know, the floor of value. And when I say floor of value is all the way down in hell. Diva, her floor is still pretty high. Like, even if you Diva bomb and kill nothing, I would say that try not to like lengthen that floor by like throwing these Hail Mary Diva bombs for no reason. You're like full HP and you're about to start a team fight and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna throw a Diva bomb and hope and pray, and then you don't have it to remech later when the fight happens. But if you practice your demon bomb, you're confident in it, then sure, go for it. Next up, we got to talk about is Mercy Valk. And Mercy Valk is actually, I think, a very, very strong ultimate. I'm actually putting it at the bottom of A tier. It makes Mercy more survivable, which helps her get reses off a lot easier. It allows her to amplify, mass heal, or mass damage boost her team, which is a crazy strong. I'm actually putting this above Genji. Genji's like, he's going to be at the absolute bottom of A tier. I'm actually putting Mercy ult like here. Let's put it here. Just the ability to be that versatile with the character, I think is just super, super strong. It creates much more pressure for the whole team. And like I said, it aids to those reses. So all in all, you can use it and you can combo. You can combo with the blade. You can combo with someone going in. You can combo it just with pretty much any offensive ultimate. And then also you could just help your entire team. I think it's really, really great. Really strong. Great to use offensively. And sometimes it's great to use defensively. If you lose someone, you could pop it ult, res that person, and then now your team gets like a boost of juice to go fight the team fight. Coalescence. This is an interesting ultimate because it's okay. Like, I would say it's just okay. I would put it kind of in the same tier, a little bit above Hanzo. Coalescence is something that can still get shut down. You can still get killed during it. It's not like an ultimate that will necessarily just win a fight outright. It adds a lot of pressure. It can heal your team. It can add pressure on the enemy. But it's really about how you use it properly. And there's a chance you pop it and it doesn't really do that much. There's also a chance that you pop it and you still die. And there's a lot of ultimates that could also just like completely counter Amor's ultimate as well. I'll say that if you use it really properly, you have great tracking, you use it as a closer to pressure that already exists, I think it could be fantastic. Or even a turner to like turn a fight. I think sometimes people get a little bit too greedy with more ultimate and they don't have enough focus. If you have both those things, not too greedy, and you're very focused on what you want to do with it, like hell, even use it on a diver dives you, they're trying to kill you, you just pop your ultimate, you just kill that person. Just straight up solo ult somebody. That's like the focus that I'm talking about that could get you guaranteed value, and then the ultimate is better. But for an average use case, I'm going to put it at the bottom of B tier. Next up, we got to talk about Barrage, and I think Barrage is really strong. I'm going to put Barrage above Genji Blade a little bit. This has a very low floor too. I know that I'm talking about low floors here, and there's characters that have astronomically low floors. Pharah could just pop an ultimate and just die instantly. I'm assuming that you're going to play around the things that could shut you down perfectly. And Pharah, the thing about Barrage that's so strong is not only can you burst damage through something like Trance or Beat, but it's if you have like a nano or a damage boost. But the thing about this ultimate is that it can change a fight on a dime. Like, you can go from 0 to 100 instantly. It's not an ultimate that takes its sweet ass time, right? It's an ultimate that wins it right away. So you can like fly into a fight and you instantly ult on the threat, the thing that can actually deal with you, and then you do a whole bunch of damage to everyone else or kill them, and now you're a Pharah on the point and they have nothing that can deal with you because you ulted it. You literally ulted it. You took it out of the equation. And I think that all of that combined together just means that Barrage is really strong. I'm gonna say that it's pretty strong. Next up, we have Reaper Death Blossom. I think this ultimate is better than those. My B tier is getting absolutely stacked. But anyways, am I A tier? Reaper Death Blossom has a lot of momentum. It creates a ton of momentum. It's great for Reaper because it can be used in a similar situation to Barrage, but you are not as vulnerable. Like, the floor is not as low. You basically get to focus on a target, and maybe you kill that person, maybe you get them to one, and then you pop your ultimate. Oftentimes you can kill the entire team. There's great combos right now with Beat, Speed, Kiriko Rush, which, by the way, there's no Kiriko on this damn list. I'm just gonna tell you where she places at the end. And yeah, no, it's a really great ultimate. It also reloads Reaper, but most of the time you're gonna kill everybody. You can also still with less CC in the game that could shut you down, it's better. And even if there is CC that could shut you down, the momentum of Reaper ultimate, like, oftentimes you can pop it in a way where you get value instantaneously. It doesn't matter if you get stopped or you get killed, but because you like already got like 2 or 3 kills. Next up, we got to talk about Tactical Visor. Okay, I need to move some of these around. I'm actually going to move this down. I'm going to move this down. I'm going to move this down. Tactical Visor goes here. Tactical Visor goes here. Tactical Visor stays there. These C-tier ultimates aren't bad by any means. Like I said, no ultimate is like truly bad, but they're weaker on average than some of these other ones. this Brig's a little bit of a weird one. I think maybe I'm underrating Brig Ultimate a little bit. I'm rating her low because of her power level relative to the other support ultimates, but perhaps that's not fair because I should be rating her more closely to the power level of other ultimates in the game. Okay, this is definitely not correct. This is definitely okay. There you go. Something like this. Sure, we're gonna keep it like this for now. Okay. Anyways, Soldier 76, Tactical Visor. It's great at comboing things. It can put a lot of pressure onto enemies. I'm actually going to put it down here. I think that it's a pretty powerful ultimate, but there's also the risk of getting no value with it. But it doesn't have a very low floor. Like, its base value is still pretty high, but its ceiling is not crazy high unless you combo it. So, EMP. We're putting EMP all the way the hell up here. Now, Overwatch 1 EMP was S tier. Overwatch 2 EMP is very good, but it still requires follow-up from your team and proper timing. Because when you pop the ultimate, it doesn't last very long. So if you don't close out that fight fast enough, players are going to get all their abilities online, and they're going to start popping them to turn this fight. So it is something that's really strong because you could force an engagement even when enemies aren't weak or they still have their abilities, because you could focus a target and just kill it outright. But there also is a fear that if you don't capitalize on that window of opportunity fast enough, the ultimate doesn't do that much. Still gonna put it in the A tier. Still really strong, but I also don't think that that it's capable or deserving of the S tier right now. Symmetra's Wall. I'm gonna put this ultimate actually pretty high up. I think that it's pretty strong. I'm gonna put it up into the top of A tier. Actually, let's move Genji down like that and Pharah down like that. We're moving things around right now. Probably a little bit brutal to get Genji, but you know, we're just moving things down. Okay, yeah, so Symmetra's Wall can be game fight winning. It can be absolutely insane against the right composition. Like, if you're playing against a composition that wants to shoot from distance, you know, characters that are hit scan, characters that want to poke, a Sigma comp, for instance, a sniper comp. Symmetra's Wall is just basically a free fight win by itself. You just split in the middle, you push down, you get to play on both sides of the field, and it's incredible. But against some compositions, it doesn't really do as much, and some teams are just gonna like back up and avoid it. A dive comp could even push past it, or just back up and avoid it, and then they just wait for it to be over. I think that it's really, really strong, but it was definitely a lot stronger back in Overwatch 1. Next up, we got to talk about Torb, the Molten Core. I'm gonna put Torb in like the C tier. It definitely has potential, don't get me wrong, but it also might not do anything. Let me move this around a little bit. It also might not do anything. Like, it's pretty easy to avoid, and it's not a great ultimate to combo all the time. It's hard to aim. It's not reliable value. It can do a lot of crazy good things, but its floor is pretty bad. It's not great. Roadhog's Whole Hog. We're putting this up pretty high, I think. I think it's pretty strong here. I'm gonna put it here. Roadhog Whole Hog is really good. There's a lot of reasons why it's good. Actually, we're moving Soldier down to the C tier. Sorry, Soldier. You have a lot of flexibility with this ultimate. You can use it to kill enemies that are like tanks. Any tank comes in, you can like ult them right into a wall. You could use it to boot people off. You could use this as a solo ult to follow up. You could use it as an amplifying of damage. It works really well with Roadhog's kit. I think it's really strong, and the fact that now that we can cancel it with a breather, you're not like full committing to the hog ult anymore. I think it's great. I just think this ultimate is great, and it can win you entire team fights when used in the optimal, perfect situations. But even at its lowest, it's still pretty good as long as you don't just get like instantly naded and murdered. Let's hope that that's not true. Tracer Pulse Bomb. This is an ultimate I'm putting high. I'm putting it all the way up here. And you might be like, what the hell? Tracer Pulse Bomb. Its ceiling is crazy high, right? If you can build this up so quickly and win fight after fight after fight, just getting stick after stick, it can be one of the best ways to carry fights as Tracer. And I think that because of its really, really fast charge time, like you build it up really quickly, that is what kind of unleashes the carry potential on Tracer. Not everyone's going to be able to hit sticks. Not everyone's going to be able to be reliable and consistent. I have a Tracer guide if you want to see that. It's going to help you get better at them. But overall, the potential of this ultimate is there. And like if we looked at ultimates just on base value, like, oh, this ultimate power level versus this one, sure. but you got to look at it within the context of the character. And the context of this ultimate is you're going to generate this ultimate over and over and over again, and you could be losing a fight, stick somebody, kill them, then that threat's eliminated. You go on into another target with all your abilities, you kill them, you turn a fight just as a one-man army. It's insane, or one-woman army. Next up is Trance. I'm going to put Trance at the bottom of S tier. Now, I do think that Trance is like strictly worse than Lucio Beat. It's not as powerful as Lucio Beat because while, yes, there are things that Lucio Beat can't heal through and past, Trance can be kind of disrupted in a lot of ways. One, you have to be kind of close to your target where Beat can spread out across the battlefield. Two, Trance, you could get naded, and something could get naded in your Trance, and then they could still die. And there's also ways to one-tap things even when they're being tranced. Not in the same way that when they're in the Beat, at least at the start. That being said, Trance lasts a little bit longer in the mid-fight at full force, and it also makes Zen himself invulnerable. But I also think that because of Zen's character, it's a little bit easier to bait out if they're playing around it, as opposed to trying to force a Lucio to beat is a little bit hard. Zen, oftentimes you bait it out by putting pressure on him. Lucio, you put pressure on his team to kind of incentivize it to force, because it's hard to... A Lucio that has good movement, that's playing properly, it's very hard to punish that Lucio. All of this kind of combines together to just kind of showcase the fact that Beat is just a little bit more flexible, versatile, powerful, defensive ultimate, but any defensive ultimate that does what these ultimates do to the extent are just insane. So I'm putting Transcendence in the S tier as well. Primal Rage, another ultimate that I think is phenomenal. I'm putting it here. Primal Rage is really strong. Let's actually do that. I think I'm locking in. The only ones I'm a little bit, this is a weird. These ones are kind of weird. These are all weird, but you know, I just feel like every ultimate can be insane, but it's not always going to be. Okay, Primal Rage is great because it works really well with Winston's kit. It allows him to potentially carry fights, get solo picks, boot people off the map or off the objective. And it just really aids into what Winston wants to do, the cycles of Winston, creating pressure, and allows Winston to make plays against compositions that he can't hard dive into. And I think that all that kind of comes together to just put it pretty high up. And it could just completely win a fight because of those things, because of how important it is for a tank to be alive and creating pressure and creating space. So I'm putting it, you know, up here. Let's do that to balance things out. Okay, Doomfist Ultimate. Doomfist Ultimate. I mean, come on, it's pretty bad. I would say it's like here. Doomfist Ultimate, it does aid in what Doomfist wants to do, but like think about Doomfist Ultimate compared to Primal Rage and what you can accomplish with Doomfist Ultimate. Sure, in a best case scenario, you can get a kill with it. Sure, that's true. But oftentimes, this ultimate is just something that you have to have before you can make any aggressive play, and even then, it's not going to work out very well. Perhaps this is a little bit of a biased take because Doomfist is really weak right now. That could be true. But I will say that how far they've kind of nerfed Doomfist Ultimate and how little it does and how long it takes to build and all that comes together to a kit that doesn't really flow very well right now. I'm going to put him at the bottom. Sigma Ultimate. I actually want to put this pretty high up. I could put it at the bottom of S tier. I'm going to put it at the top of A tier. I think Sigma Ultimate is really strong. It can win entire team fights. It can lock people into CC. It can be followed up really easily. The only problem with this is that it can get canceled. Like, Sigma can be a threat here. But I do think that a Sigma that properly plays around it, uses natural cover and things like that, proper target selection, he's not going to get it canceled. It's also pretty hard to use against some people on the battlefield. I would say you need to properly play around all of the things that can get out of your ultimate movement abilities, things like even like dash and fade and things like that. If you play around these things and you set up the ultimate and you don't get too greedy with it, I think it's going to win you a lot of team fights. Last up, Hammond Mines here. Hammond Mines, I think, are pretty good. Pretty good. Let's put it here. Probably here. Hammond Mines are pretty strong. Hammond Mines are insane. I think they could completely turn a team fight. I think that if used properly on objectives, amplified with pressure, you could win, like, complete fights with it. But at the same time, it can be something that's avoidable and clearable. There is a pretty low floor here, and it also requires you to properly time it. It takes a lot of skill from the Wrecking Ball user to kind of put an optimal one that actually will create the pressure where you need it to create the pressure to win the fight. I'm putting it in the middle of B tier. I think it has the potential to be higher or lower depending on the use case. And then the last up we have Kiriko. What the hell? Okay, we have Kiriko. So yeah, Rush is at S tier. Rush is probably actually right here between Zarya and Ryan. You could even make the argument that Rush is like right next to Lucio. Rush is insane. Incredibly powerful ultimate. Gives your entire team more abilities throughout the fight. Amplifies their speed. It closes fights. It turns fights. It gives you a retreation option potentially. It's a great starting to a fight. I mean, it's just great at all the time, anytime, whenever. Kiriko Rush is fantastic. It's so freaking strong. It's so goddamn powerful. And it's an S tier ultimate for sure. But this is my list. I would say that some of these I'm very, very confident in. Like the top. Some of these I'm not so much, like some of these in the middle. But I think you could make an argument for some of these being moved. I'm definitely interested in your opinion about this down below. Let me know which of these you agree or disagree with, and where would you move certain ultimates and why? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for coming by. Smash that like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon for private coaching, and I'll see you next time.